All right. Hello, everyone. We are live once again. We are halfway through our build up of the Euro 2024 group, and we have gone ahead with Group A, Group C, B, and Group C. So that's three groups out of the six that we have already completed. And now it comes down to the final three groups of this Euros. The build up has been fascinating. All the final rounds of warm up games before the tournament is over. And now each and every side will be on their way to Germany. And there are only 4 days left for the tournament to kick off in full stead. Anukarsh, how are we feeling? We're just 4 days away from the tournament. Before we speak before we speak about all the teams in the group and talk about the group in general, how excited are you now that the tournament is just 4 days away and some of the biggest names in the continent will face off against each other for that title? How are you feeling? How is the excitement? How's the expectation going on?
First of all, the only expectations that are really being fulfilled are by the host present here. So thank you, Delwyn bhai, for being here, first of all. And then other than that, of course, the Euros, some people call it bigger than the World Cup. Some people call it, a grand spectacle that, no other tournament can match. What I can say is that it's definitely a tournament we are all looking forward to. It's definitely something that's going to set the whole of Europe, the whole of Asia, everyone in the footballing world alight. And yeah, we are all looking forward to it. It's the time when United and Liverpool fans come together. It's the time when fans of different clubs come together for that one country. And yes, anything can happen. And no one's gonna even complain कि India Euros में खेल क्यों नहीं रही है. So yeah, we can watch this tournament without any guilt and know that some great action is gonna happen. And today, discussing about Group D is just the start of things to come.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And so, without wasting a lot of time, let's get into Group D. So,
Absolutely.
all of them have been very unanimous about the fact that Group B is the legitimate group of death. And perhaps one school of thought is maybe rightly so because of the fact that in that group you do have the current defending champions, you have the two-time Euro winners, and then you have Croatia who are perennial contenders or maybe dark horses, you can say, if you feel contenders is a bit too much. But Group D in itself presents a different challenge of its own. You have four teams, out of which you have France and Netherlands, who are in a league of their own, yeah, so to speak, with France being beaten finalists in the last World Cup and Netherlands quarter finalists in that tournament. And then you have the other two teams, that is Austria and Poland. Both very different teams, both entering the tournament in in different states, but all four teams very qualitative in the
Right.
sense that there is quality in each and every team. So do you believe that after Group B, if there is any group that can be classified as a group of death, it's this particular group, or do you have another opinion with that regard?
No, I agree with you that Group D definitely is the challenger to Group D when it comes to being the group of death. I think Austria and Poland, although I wouldn't say cohesively they are very good sides, but I think they have some great stars. We know about Poland. Of course, he has started to age a bit, but he has at times aged like fine wine. Also, we have Lewandowski, we have got players like Zelensky. Of course, they are not as good maybe as they were say 10 years ago or 8 years ago, but they are definitely players that can turn the game around. And Austria, of course, we talk further about it, but players like Sabitzer, players like Baumgartner, I think they have a lot of influence in that team. I think they have a lot of star power. At least not all of them, but yeah, still a lot of good players. So let's see. A lot's going to depend on how Netherlands and France play on that day. France, I think, of course, are look like the clear favorites, but Netherlands, we have seen with them in the past World Cups and all, they can sometimes, get a bit complacent, make some mistakes. Even against Argentina in the World Cup, they were doing pretty well. I mean, they had almost got the game back when they had got Weghorst in, but then they lost it in the end. So they are a team which can really surprise on days and can really disappoint on others. So yeah, it's a very start group. Let's see what's gonna happen.
So now, since you've spoken about France, let's talk a little bit about France. So
Absolutely.
there is this weird intersection that goes on with French football in the sense that they are excellent in one tournament and then they tend to fall off their standards a bit. So let's talk about the last three tournaments that have happened. We'll start with the 2018 World Cup where they ended up winning the entire tournament. And then we have the Euros, which came in. They looked a little circumspect. It was not entirely smooth. And then they got out to Switzerland in the penalty shootout in the round of 16, with Mbappe missing a pretty crucial penalty. And their performances, on the whole, not exactly convincing, to say the least. Then you have the World Cup, where they were excellent, but even there were times where it looked like they would be vulnerable and so on and so forth. But they eventually ended up making the finals, and as we all know, it was a spectacle for the ages, and eventually ended up losing on penalties.
Absolutely right, right.
They come into this Euros while the squad itself is basic. We all know how insanely talented and how well rounded that French squad is, but they do enter this tournament with certain questions there. While there are equal questions and equal good things that are happening in that French squad, there is a sense of unrest in the sense that some of their players are not exactly on song. Ousmane Dembele has not exactly set the world alight with his PSG move. Then you have a couple of new players that have found their way into the side with Yusuf Fofana back in there. Then you have Warren Zaire-Emery, and then you have Bradley Barcola. All these young guys, along with the with the experience of the other players in there. Do you think that that bit of unrest is enough to sow a discord in the way that the French side approaches this tournament, or do you think that they have enough quality to overcome those challenges as such?
I think Delwyn Bhai, France as a team, you can say that like it will be interesting to see if how they go through this sort of transition phase for that matter, because their squad is very much different from how it looked like in 2018, of course. But we saw in the World Cup how France are a team who have the experience to grind it out. Like we, as you talked about, they did not set the world alight in every match in the World Cup, but they managed to qualify to the final, and they could have won it also if Kolomuani had actually scored. What I feel is that with France, a lot of things can happen. They are like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're gonna get. But yeah, one thing I can say is that they have the star power. I think when it comes to talking about teams, Germany and France have really big names for that matter. And but what sets France apart is that they have some really good young players. You talked about Barcola. He was amazing at Lyon also before moving to PSG. And at PSG also, yeah, I think he has done well. Other than that, of course, you talked about Zaire Emery, who, of course, again is a PSG player. They have got Ousmane Dembele. We have seen this season, like we saw the match against Barcelona. He can sometimes, really do well. Sometimes he can be really frustrating. You don't know what else getting out of him. He's not a dependable player, definitely. But I think overall, with players like Griezmann, with other players, France have the required firepower. Though I think this season, this competition, I think defense is something which I don't think they're as strong as they were maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But then anything could happen. Let's see how they perform. And I clearly see them being the group winners in this group without any problem. But again, if it's a Euros in competitions like that, anything could happen.
So, in the last World Cup, obviously there was this huge cloud of uncertainty over Mbappe's future. Will he move from PSG? Will he not? And with the World Cup being in Qatar, which has a vested interest in PSG in terms of
No.
group and things like that, it was there was always a little bit of a magnifying glass on whatever Mbappe was doing. But now he enters into a tournament with a clear space of mind. His move to Madrid is confirmed. He's officially as good as a Madrid player now. So, do you think that a mentally unburdened Mbappe, who has no pressure or no lingering thoughts about his clear and immediate future as far as club football is concerned, do you think that that's going to be a huge advantage for France because of the way that obviously we talk about a clear mind helping the player to reach even greater heights. So do you believe that this is going to be a huge asset for France, given that he's very well sorted as far as club future is concerned?
Before I answer that question, since you have like been asking really good questions, what do you think about Mbappe's move to Real Madrid? Like just overall, like what's the overall sense you get out of it?
All right. Who, according to you, is the one player or two players to watch out for from this France squad? Obviously, Mbappe is out there, so we'll put Mbappe at the back burner for now. Any other player that you feel
No, no.
is
No, I meant the reason I asked you that question was because with Mbappe, like what we have seen is now Delwyn bhai, there has been a lot of controversy around him काफी time से for a lot of time. People have been talking about Mbappe, this, that. But I think
yeah,
overall, largely, he has handled the pressure well. Overall, when it comes to these tournaments, I mean, he has been linked to Real Madrid. I think since you and I was in school, maybe it seems such a long time. But it's like how. He has still done well for France. I think he has really matured as a player, especially on the international stage. So I don't think there would be a big difference. He will definitely be a big firepower. And coming to the question you just asked other than Mbappe, I think I was very surprised actually in the World Cup with how well Griezmann was doing because of whatever happened at Barcelona. And I think again he will be a key player. I think he is aging like fine wine in on the international scene. So I think that would be my name for it. What do you think?
yeah. I think Deschamps has been a very key factor in the maturity of Mbappe from an emotionally and personal point of view. I think what Deschamps has done really well in his time as French manager is basically nurture all those massive egos that are there in that French squad, because we've always seen that the French squad has a lot of big egos in the side, whether whether it's been in the 90s or whether it's 2000s. So like it's and the situation with the French national team is it's like a very volatile sort of thing. That one small thing and that can take off a massive unrest in the squad. And so what Deschamps has excellently done is manage each and every one. And I think Mbappe has been the biggest benefactor of that. It also helps that Mbappe himself has a very calm head on his shoulders. And he approaches these things with the maturity and the professionalism that has been required of him each and every single time. And
Yes.
I think he's continued that, and that has been very beneficial for him in his growth as a player and his growth as an individual as well. So I think this relative independence of the fact that he doesn't have to think about his club future, I think is going to hold France in very good stead. I mean, imagine a restricted Mbappe did so well, scored a hat trick in the finals of the World Cup. Imagine a decluttered Mbappe could just go ahead and be just absolutely batshit crazy. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I agree. I
yeah.
agree. Yeah.
So I was asking that one or two players who could make a difference in the France squad apart from Mbappe.
Yeah, one name I said was Griezmann. Another name which I think I really like Barcola for that matter, Delwyn Bhai. I think he's a very good player, and I don't expect him to start most of the matches, but I do expect him to be that factor that can come off the bench and score that equalizer or score that winning goal in certain matches.
All right. So for you, it's Barcola. I think my X factor is going to be a player who's made a return back into the side, and that is N'Golo Conte.
Oh
It's
yeah,
been
of course.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It has been a while since I've seen him in France colors,
Can
and
I interrupt you for 1 second? I remember back in school when Kante was in his prime. People used to say Kante nahi kat rahi din ye raat. He was that good at Leicester, and I think
the
definitely like Kante is one of a kind.
71% of the earth is covered by water, the rest by N'Golo Conte.
Uh, that goes for Jordan Henderson also. I used to have a poster in my room of that, but now I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, having him back is just a
Yeah,
good sign, and I hope he
absolutely.
has a good tournament. And if he does have a good tournament, France automatically become a very, very formidable prospect because his qualities as a central defensive midfielder are just unparalleled and second to none. And that would be a huge, huge, advantage for the team that is in for France, and that could be a huge factor in things going France's way as well. So the next team that we're going to talk about is, you can say that they are perennial bridesmaids of the competitions that they are part of, because they always come close. They make us they try they always one step close to making a huge statement, only to falter by the wayside at the current situations, and that is Netherlands. Again, great team. They have very, very talented individuals. They have quality, but for some reason it just does not work out for them in any international tournament up to a certain level. They always approach the tournaments as underdogs. They manage to get up to a certain stage in the competition, and
Right.
then the very same thing that has brought them there in the first place, it does not work for them. And then the very thing that has been their strength turns out to be their weakness, and that more often than not tends to be their undoing. So my question to you, Anukarsh, is: do you think that Netherlands should approach this tournament as an underdog, or do you think the mindset in that Dutch camp should be that, all right, we've had enough of keeping us in that underdog conversation? Maybe think like winners and enter the competition like you're the best team in the tournament, and maybe that works in your favor because you've tried the underdog method. It has not worked for you all this while. Maybe a fresh approach here wouldn't hurt them. So where do you stand on this? Like, what should be the mindset for this Dutch team? Because there is talent in that side.
Okay, I think the first of all that's a very good question. But before I answer that, I want to take some of the comments. Nakshatra Bhai says GJMU, and yeah, when Delwyn Bhai is there, we have to say that. And I'm sure by the end of this show, I myself will be saying it. And then, yeah. And Varun Bhai says Viva Portugal. And of course, Ronaldo fans United, ये तो हमेशा रहेगा ये एक रिश्ता वरुण भाई. And please, Nakshatra Bhai, Varun Bhai, and everyone who's in the chat, tell us what do you think about this group? What are going to be the standings? And what do you think about Netherlands also? And yeah, coming on to the question, Darren bhai, I think you make a lot of sense when you talk about mentality with Netherlands. I think that is something which we have seen with footballing teams works a lot. Either sometimes in their favor, sometimes against it. We saw Bayer Leverkusen how, except that one not so one sort of unholy sort of match in the Europa League final, they absolutely ripped teams apart at times, but also were able to win out of situations in which no one expected them to, like just like India yesterday against Pakistan, right? And I think a big reason for that is mentality. And I think Daniel bhai, if they do, I think they have to believe in themselves more, because with the players they have now, the players like Van Dijk, players like Cody Gakpo, players like they have had players like Weghorst, they have got other players, and they have got Malen, who of course has had a good season, and then
Dumfries has been
Dumfries,
champion.
absolutely, absolutely. So I really think that Netherlands as a team is a very, very strong side, and players who have had decent seasons. And I think in the Euros, I expect Netherlands to do a lot better if they can, keep their own and believe in themselves. Because, and I think they should go out with a positive mindset, with the mindset they haven't gone before. Because I think no one's really expecting them to absolutely kill it in the tournament or win it. They are one of the better sides. Everyone's expecting them to do well. So I think why not go for it, and maybe, just maybe, it could be their season.
And it could also elevate the likes of Virgil van Dijk, like, because you see Virgil van Dijk in the Netherlands, and if you see Virgil van Dijk in a Liverpool shirt, you have a Virgil van Dijk who is very focused and has a clear idea of what to expect of him. He always goes in with the mentality of winning games, and that is very evident. You being a Liverpool fan have witnessed it firsthand. Me being a Premier League watcher for so many years has watched that mentality grow into Virgil van Dijk with every passing season. So it will definitely help to elevate the level of performance from the likes of Van Dijk, who are so used to having winning mentalities in club football. And then they find it a little bit difficult to transition that on an international scale, given that the team on a whole is not exactly in the strongest of situations right there. So I believe that the mentality helps. But my other question coming to it is the manager. Netherlands have reappointed Ronald Koeman. He was Netherlands manager for a brief period before he took the Barca job, and the Dutch form did see a very considerable upturn in fortune, where they were playing some really good football. Ronald Koeman was getting into them. The ideas were good. It was fresh. It was innovative from a Dutch point of view. Do you think that he's going to be able to rediscover that mojo and once again make Netherlands that formidable force that they looked like in that brief period under Koeman? Because obviously Koeman as Barca manager has suffered huge questions about his ability of coaching at the highest level. So it's somehow like a tournament for Ronald Koeman to prove himself as well. It's like the squad and the manager find themselves in the same boat, that they have to finally prove to the people that they have taken that next step. Do you believe that this is the tournament that they'll do it, both coach and
I
manager, coach
I
and
think
team, sorry?
I think this could be that tournament for me because I think they have the squad. They have got some really terrific young players like Xavi Simons also, who has who has really had a really good season. He's not some talent who doesn't have the numbers. He has done well in terms of goals and assists also. Uh, uh, and I think Ronald Koeman, of course, you talked about how they have had an upturn of form. He has coached at different teams. He has coached like teams like Barcelona, but he has also coached at teams like Southampton. So I think he knows how to handle the best and the worst. When it comes to and I not with no disrespect to Southampton, what I'm trying to say is when it comes to two sides of the spectrum, when you're really suffering as a team or when you're really doing well as a team. So I think I think they have the right squad, they have the right manager. So it's all going to come down to what they do in those 90 minutes. But I think Netherlands have a very good chance, Devin. Right? And before we move on, just
Yeah,
next
yeah.
question, I would like to take some
Rahul has
comments here.
put yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Rahul has put a very, very interesting question in the sense: do you think the Dutch will suffer from the lack
What
of a
do you
finisher?
think? I want you to answer this.
Yeah, I think this has been a problem that has plagued them for a lot of international tournaments. The fact that they have not entered the tournament with a natural number nine. I think the last tournament that they entered in was Robin van Persie in 2014, and they reaped the benefits of it with the fact that he chipped in with those crucial goals, and he was the focal point at which these Dutch attacks used to build themselves upon. But the fact that they don't have a natural finisher is definitely going to hurt them. Maybe, maybe not. I would like to see how they try to atone for that. The fact that they don't have a natural finisher, will all their attacks go through Daniel Malen or will they go through Xavi Simons? It's a very interesting dynamic that they've played because Malen has had a much improved season with Dortmund this year, and again Xavi Simons is also coming off a very productive season with Leipzig. So these are two players that can have a huge say. But again, this Netherlands team looks like a side that they will hold their own when defensive news is concerned, where they'll be defensively resolute. But whether or not they'll be able to finish those chances that the likes of Frankie de Jong will put on for them, or maybe like the likes of a Noah Lang or Memphis for that matter, will put in for them, it depends on whether they are able to finish their chances or no.
Right.
I think so. To answer the question, short answer is yes, they will suffer up to a certain extent. But if they do manage to have an all-round contribution when it comes to the goal scoring, I think they should be in good stead because even Spain do not have a natural striker up their ranks. Then even Italy don't have a striker up their ranks. So it is they are not the only team that are entering into this tournament with a lack of a finisher. So I think there is enough quality to atone for it. Whether they will be able to is another question altogether. So let's see, let's have a look. I think they could prove a lot of people wrong, is what I believe.
Yes. And we appreciate the support, Rahul bhai. I am also a big
Yeah,
fan of Delwyn bhai here.
thank you so much. The third team is a very interesting team because this team in the past 2 years has gone on to create a very good reputation for itself. They were not able to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. Their football was dull at best. They were not able to replicate despite the good big names that they have. But in the last 2 years, they've changed manager, and after that, they've just gone on a roll and they're playing some of the best football in the country's history. I'm talking about Austria. This team had played in the Euros previously as well, but were not able to make a proper splash. But this year, under the management of Ralph Rangnick of Man United fame, I mean, he's done better work in other teams, but I think he'll always be known for those 6 months at Man United where things went wrong and the players literally just put down their tools just because they knew that he was an interim manager. Unfortunate for him, but he's so the interesting part is that Ralph Rangnick's Austria job is the first time that he's ever managed an international football team. So what he's done is he's picked them, he's relocated to Austria, and he's now found himself in the midst of a team that has become so free flowing, so aesthetically pleasing with the football, and a team that has been able to buy into his philosophies. So in the last 15 to 18 months, these are the teams that they have beaten. Just give me a second. I've just had them with me.
इसने कमेंट्स में बोला है बिग लक्षण नायर फैन हियर आई हैव नो आइडिया व्हाट दिस
So Lakshay is one of our common colleagues.
is.
Yeah. He's a friend of ours. So what I was saying is in the last 12 to 15 months, these are the teams that they've beaten. They've beaten Croatia 3-0. They've beaten Italy 2-0. They've beaten Germany 2-0. And as recently as March, they destroyed Turkey 6-1. But that team did not have either David Alaba, nor Marko Arnautovic, or Marcel Sabitzer, who are three of their most important players. And yet they have gone on and destroyed Turkey 6-1. So in the past few months or years, this has been the performance. They're clearly on an upward curve. The manager has managed to get the best out of these players. And I think maybe it is time to consider Austria as one of the dark horses of this tournament.
Absolutely. I strongly feel that. I think one player who I think is an epitome of that is Sabitzer for me. I think that when he came to United, it was very much under the radar how much of an effect he had. And I think if he can have that sort of an effect on Austria, then I think nothing like it. I think players like Baumgartner, they haven't had the best of seasons, in my opinion, but I think they are players who we have seen do decently well on the international stage. And I think Austria, for me, overall look like a good side. Rangnick, we know that, of course, his time was at United wasn't the best. But we also know that he is a very smart manager, knows his game, knows a lot of tactics, puts a lot of technical aspect into the game. So these sort of things can work out on certain days against certain teams. And I think they will give other teams a run for their money. I think if we take France and Netherlands as the first two teams of this group, I think Austria will give Poland a run for their money, a strong run for their money.
Yeah. You said about Sabitzer being one of the key players in this Austrian side. Do you think the fact that this tournament has come so quickly after the heartbreaking Champions League final loss that he had to endure as a Dortmund player, do you think that this tournament has come quick enough for him so that he's able to get that final out of his head and go ahead and maybe just enjoy the fact that he's with the national team? Because as professional players, sometimes a loss that is as difficult as this one, given the fact that Dortmund were dominant for large stretches of that game, and the fact ended up losing that tournament altogether. Do you think that this tournament has come at the perfect time for Sabitzer to just play more freely and just the perfect way to get over it?
I think this reminds me of a quote from Zakir Khan when he was asked that how do you move from one relationship to another? He said, "एक और relationship में आगे." I think that's exactly what Sabitzer has to do. नए competition में आगे he has to move on. I think that is the best because I think the final against Real, they missed quite a number of chances. And I feel I think the Euros have come at the right time for him. श्रेयस भाई जैसे कह रहे हैं फ्रांस द अनडिस्प्यूटेड टॉपर डेफिनेटली श्रेय भाई आई हैव टू से फ्रांस हमारे अनडिस्प्यूटेड टॉपर है जैसे यू आर द अनडिस्प्यूटेड टॉपर एट आईएफपी व्हेन इट कम्स टू मेकिंग एडिट्स एंड one thing I have to say though, I think with teams like Austria and Poland now, I think they will be very hot and cold at times, and it all depends on the opposition, maybe especially teams like Netherlands and France, how they're able to capitalize on the moments when these teams are absolutely playing above their skin, playing through their skin, playing beyond it, or how they're able to capitalize when these teams aren't playing at the level that should be expected from a professional team, for that matter. It's about how the opposition reacts to their onslaught.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you answered Shrey's question. I have a very different
Yeah.
opinion when it comes to undisputed topper. I'm not sure they're going to be the undisputed topper. They will face some level of discomfort. I think solely because of the fact that the background that they've entered in it. I think last night, yeah, they had a goalless draw with Canada, and they were under. That was, I think, their first ever game under new manager as well for Canada. So there were a lot of things that did not go right for France. So I think there is a little bit of a dodgy straight when it comes to them being undisputed toppers. While I do see them topping the group, I do not see them do it at a canter or at a very comfortable
Go
speed,
ahead.
is what I believe.
I agree.
Yeah. So there will be hiccups along the way, but then let's yeah. So the last team of this group, I think not many of them are giving them a chance, and I am one of them. Despite the big name that they have up front, I do not see them having much of an. I think they are one of those teams that you can call a rank outsider, and they are Poland. So they've made the past few international tournaments, but all they have done is manage just flattered to deceive. They've not exactly been the best. Lewandowski has not been the best version of himself in either of these tournaments as well. And by the looks of it, it looks like this team will go wherever Lewandowski takes them. And so far, all that he has managed to take them to is to the tournament and back, because there is no progress. All the time they have been eliminated in the group stages only. So,
Mhm.
my question to you is, do you think they have enough? I certainly feel they don't. What are your thoughts on the outlook of this Polish side? Do you think they have enough to challenge the likes of a France or even an Austria for that matter?
I think teams like Poland are very much over the line on two or three players like Chesney, players like Lewandowski, of course, players like Zelensky, and if I'm being very honest, Poland have got these two three players, and the rest of the squad are just names you can use in a Spellboy competition. So while that looks good on paper, the fact remains that when it comes to doing on the pitch. What they do, how they play, because I think in the World Cup we saw how they can be, really hot and cold at times. They can I remember them against Saudi Arabia. They had a very I think they did well at the end of the match, but they started of the match really bad, looked very mediocre. And I think that's the thing with Poland at times like that. Other teams can capitalize. And I think that's what they have to take care of. They have to be aware of playing well, playing cohesively as a team, because they of course cannot go out out like an all-out attack approach against the likes of Netherlands and the likes of France. So it's about taking their chances. They of course have got one of the very best in the world at taking chances, but it's about how they can create for him, how they can supply him the right through balls, the right assists for that. Because at the end of the day, it's about those 11 players on the pitch, and the others have to step up, because the over the lines on the top players can sometimes be really derogatory for a team's chances. And I
Do
think
you? Yeah.
for
Yeah, yeah, go on, go on, go on.
one last point, I think I get a feeling that Austria for me and might be the team that finishes third in this group.
All right. Do you think that Poland are defensively strong enough to, withstand the threat of France and Netherlands long enough? Because what I have seen, of course you can be feel free to disagree with me if you feel so. But what I have seen from a tactical point of view when it comes to Poland is they do it's a little bit like United in the sense that United this previous season that they managed to hold on to a game plan up to a certain time frame, but then either it is like a loss of concentration or the fact that they crumble mentally entirely, and then that entire structure, shape, and resilience just goes down the wayside. So I definitely do. You feel that they have enough power to even if they don't take their chances, do you think that they'll be able to hold on to their clean sheet long enough to frustrate the likes of France and Netherlands into a mistake? Because at the end, it's going to come down to those very fine margins, or whether or not they're able to hold on long enough, or stretch that game long enough to keep it open, so that they still have an interest in the game.
I think that is what it's going to boil down to. I think if 6, 7 years back, someone had asked me the question, I would have said Poland is going to finish in the top three. But then the players are aging now. Zelensky, Lewandowski, at the end of the day, they are very good players, have been amazing in their prime, world class for that matter, especially Lewandowski. But then that's the problem. The players cannot. I'm not too sure if they can sustain it for 90 minutes. They can maybe have a good first half or a good 60 minutes, but after that, sometimes I think it can be a bit of a problem. And I do think that the United theory that you used, I think that could be a problem for them, Delwyn Bhai. I think I see that happening. And Piyush Bhai here says Australia is going to be a dark horse for sure. They will not proceed in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's definitely going to be a good fight between Poland and Austria. For me, Austria is going to qualify, but again, you can never say. You cannot, it could also be that one of France or Netherlands get eliminated. That's the beauty of these tournaments, and that's the reason me and Devin Bhai are doing this.
Do you think that this group will have a third place qualifier?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am on two ways. So this is the group where I am on tenterhooks in the sense that I'm not exactly sure. I cannot say a yes or a no also because of the fact that if Austria managed to get a big result against either of the teams, and I do see them getting a result, it means that either France or Netherlands will have to go through the ringer. Because there is a very surprising prediction that you'll find once we talk about the final standings of this group. I have a very, very surprising prediction for this group. So, with that being said, I'll give it 55-45 to having a third place qualifier in this group. So now that we've spoken about it, what is going to be your final standings for this group?
Uh, France, Netherlands, Austria, and Poland. In that order.
I see France topping the group. I have Austria finishing second. I have Netherlands finishing third, and I have Poland finishing fourth. Now, if there is
Interesting.
one game that could potentially change or potentially have a huge outcome on the future of this group, what do you think is that one game going to be?
Poland versus Netherlands.
Poland versus Netherlands.
Poland
All
versus
right.
Netherlands.
Okay. And any particular reason as to why, or
Because I think I just think that we have talked about how Netherlands have been inconsistent, and we also know that Poland struggled to contain it for a long time. But if they can have a good 40, 50 minutes at the start of the match, anything could happen, and that could really change the dynamics of the group.
I'm feeling dangerous, Piyush. I'm feeling dangerous. My if this comes true, I'm arguably the most if insanely gifted football genius on this planet, or
Right.
or I might just fall spectacularly from grace. There is no in between with this prediction. It's either here or there. Nothing in
Yeah.
between. So I'm enjoying these predictions because it helps me get all the smoke as well. So and for me, the one game that I like, obviously everyone is going to have their eyes on France and Netherlands. That's a no-brainer. So my game is going to actually be Austria and Netherlands. Like, because I said that these are the teams for me that will finish second and third. It all depends on this fixture. Because if Austria emerge with anything positive, whether it's a draw, whether it's a win. I definitely see them beating Poland. So that's 4 points. And if they do not lose to France by a very big margin, I think in the tournament format that we've seen in the Euros, 4 points is enough for a third place team to qualify, as long as the goal difference is not absurdly into the negatives. So I think Poland, Austria versus Netherlands is going to have a huge say in how these teams are going to line up in the final scheme of things. So for me, Austria and Netherlands is the one game that I would personally have a close eye on.
Right.
So so I think we've covered everything with this group. This group has quality. This group has talent. Whether and there are some very tantalizing fixtures that could potentially have a very interesting turn of events as the groups progress. Excuse me. So it was fun dissecting this group with you, Anukarsh. It was a great time. It's always fun to talk to
Likewise.
you. Yeah, it's always going to talk. It's always fun to talk to you, whether it's on stream, whether it's off stream, and I hope that people who watched this stream from the beginning have also had a good time. I think definitely they have, because of the fact that they have put in a lot of their own questions, their opinions, and the fact that which team that they will be rooting for throughout the course of this tournament. And so, big thank you to all of you guys. A big thank you to you as well, Anukarsh. And for all of you guys, do like, share, subscribe to the channel. Also, do not forget to press the bell icon so that you're notified for each video that comes off this group. We are equally active on our Instagram page with the same username. So go ahead and give us a follow there and show us some love on Instagram as well. We will continue to go ahead and create more content as the Euros comes closer. We are just 4 days away from kickoff, and as the tournament goes on, there is more content coming your way. So do watch this space. Till then, this is Delwyn and Anukarsh wishing all of you good night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you on the other side with a brand new episode. Till then, toodles.
GGMU and you will never follow.